Last week, the world was introduced to Tilly Norwood, a character marketed as the world's first AI actress. And everyone reacted how you'd expect them to. SAG-AFTRA condemned its existence, Hollywood actors were outraged, some people online weren't happy about it, but studios were salivating. And that's a problem for more than one reason. I've got three of them today, and I want you to listen and think very carefully about what I say here, because this is the future. And I think it's really important. So let's start with the first one. So Tilly Norwood is a huge breakthrough for technology in general. It's really impressive that Particle 6, the company that created Tilly Norwood, it was able to use AI to create a character that they are confident enough to present as an actress. Though, as with most breakthroughs, in the wrong hands, something that we see as fascinating could easily turn into something horrifying. And believe me, I'm very fascinated by this, despite the potential harm that could come from it. Because I'm in the engineering industry, so any type of innovation in that world really excites me, simply because it means that we're progressing farther into our knowledge of how to work with technology and anything of that sort. But at the same time, you have to think about the ethics of every single innovation out there. And with this one, if this technology is sustainable, it could take away some jobs. There's already been reports that some agencies are already trying to sign Tilly Norwood, which you can believe that if you want. No agency has came to the public saying that they're interested in signing her, but I'm sure a few have at least put it on the table of options if they think that this is actually as legit as Particle 6 are presenting it. I think it's interesting enough that they were able to create a consistent face across various backgrounds in video format. But the fact is, all those backgrounds are AI generated as well. So that brings up the question, if this is legit, would this AI actress be used with real actors on a real movie set? Or can it only be used in 100% AI generated situations? The response to that will represent how meaningful this piece of innovation really is. But how would Tilly Norwood or others like it take away jobs? To be clear, something like Tilly would not start off as the front and center of a production. These AI generated characters would start in the background as extras, or maybe characters with one off lines, or maybe just characters that you don't even see them, but you can hear their voices in the distance. Remember, AI voices have gotten really good, though they do need a reference. If you remember, during the actor strike, SAG-AFTRA was going through multiple agreements and signing many acts because studios wanted to use an actor's likeness after they had signed one contract for the foreseeable future using AI. That would have removed the studio's need to ever hire that actor again, and that would take away their way of living. This was never going to affect the most successful actors, obviously, but it would have affected those who aren't that well known or were trying to break into the industry. Those would be the ones whose jobs would be at risk in this situation because they've got no power in most of these contract negotiations. They probably have no other options. And think about it, if you're an exec and you want to put together a movie, you've got your stars, your side characters, you need maybe one or two actors for like one-off lines or just as extras. Sure, you could go traditional and fill in these extra roles with a bunch of hopefuls trying to get into the industry. Or if the price is right, use AI. And obviously, this is all under the precondition that AI can be used in tandem with real life movie sets, which I don't know if it's there yet, though I can 100% see that happening in the future. So if an exec went down this route and used AI, they wouldn't have to worry about managing people on the set or worrying about one of these people causing problems down the line because it's an AI and it does whatever you want it to do. Nothing more, nothing less. It's one less person that they would have to deal with, which would be nice, but unethical. We shouldn't use this type of stuff if it means one less person getting a job. But you know the guys at the top will, because logistically it does make sense. Now you may think that this is how AI breaks into the film industry through background characters, but no. First, the 100% AI generated slop will appear. Do you guys remember when the MCU was still on the rise and there were tons of terrible, just terrible knockoffs of those movies coming out? You know, we had Metal Man, Almighty Thor, The Amazing Bulk. Although I give a pass to The Amazing Bulk because that was clearly satire. These movies were like day trading. The creators saw what was popping at the time. They saw the trends, so they dumped in some money, hoping for a quick short-term profit. And I'm sure they made some money back because They probably confused a few grandparents who were looking to buy the Iron Man movie but ended up getting Metal Man. But I doubt that they actually made a profit. AI generation could change that. Putting together a movie in a short amount of time is already a very difficult process. That's why these knockoffs are even worse than what we already expect out of them. But with AI generation, the time to put together a movie like that could exponentially decrease. But we're not only talking about time, we're also talking about money. A little under a year ago, the animated movie Where the Robots Grow was introduced to the world. The movie was stated as costing about $8,000 per in movie minute to create, whereas other animated movies are more along the $10,000 to $20,000 per minute. What's the catch? That shit's AI generated. Now, the visuals were the only thing that was actually 100% AI, but everything else was also AI assisted. And to be fair, the creator did say that he was only doing it as an experiment, and that's why he only released it to YouTube, but he called it the Toy Story of the AI era, referring to how the Toy Story movie helped revolutionize CGI. That's just disgusting, but it's clearly a great business move if you can get people to get over the fact that it's AI. Think about it. Where the Robots Grow is an hour and 27 minutes long. So if you take $8,000 a minute and multiply that by 87 minutes, you get $696,000 to create an AI generated animated movie. Compare that to the average regular animated movie of the same size. You do 15,000 times 87, which is $1.3 million, nearly double. So these folks looking to rip off other movies are going to be salivating at the idea of something like this because it's not only going to be faster, but it'll also be cheaper to make these rip-off movies. And no doubt it'll flood the market with AI slop. I mean, YouTube is already dealing with this. Someone came into my comment section once and commented, "No AI, straight to the point, sub." Obviously, I appreciated the sub, but it got me thinking, is there really an AI problem on YouTube? Yeah, there's a huge problem. Some vids and shorts you won't even realize are AI if you aren't looking hard enough. With this technology, the same thing could happen to the movie industry. But how about we step away from the entertainment industry for the last point? As much as this word has been dragged through the mud by folks that I will not name, it's time to get woke. AI is hurting the environment. There's two different ways that this is happening, but first, I should probably give some context on how we get to that conclusion. If you're not aware of how artificial intelligence works, they are large language models that are trained based on fed data. They make decisions based on pre-trained data that is either fed to them when they are first made or based on data that they collect from us as they respond to our prompts. ChatGPT is constantly fed data by us as we give it prompts, and as such, it will constantly retrain itself. So if we say something like, "Don't say the word pineapple," it will train itself not to say the word pineapple. And all these language models make decisions by sifting through what's called a neural network. You can liken this to something like a tree with tons of branches or a spider web. When an AI starts generating something, whether it be a chat, an image, or something else, it approaches these nodes called neurons in its code that branch off multiple ways. And the code's job is to choose the branch that is most appropriate for the current situation. Then it approaches another neuron and does that over and over and over again until it reaches a full response that it is confident enough to send back to you. So that's how AI responds to input, by predicting what the most appropriate response would be to your prompt. I hope I explained that well. I took like 3 classes on AI in college and I did a capstone project on it, so I have to know at least a little bit. Someone with more knowledge on the topic will definitely correct me in the comments on the parts that I got wrong. But that context was to show you how complex the code behind AI really is. Because if you have an AI that detects whether or not there is a banana in a picture, it probably only needs a few neurons. Is there something yellow in the picture? Is that yellow thing curved? Now, that's an oversimplification, but it is a much simpler AI than the ones that everyone knows about, especially when it comes to making something like an AI actress. So much processing has to go into that neural network. There's probably billions of neurons used in that language model. And to consolidate for how much power you would really need to sift through a neural network as big as that, we make data centers. Data centers have been growing in the past decade at exponential amounts, largely because of the advancements in AI. Data centers existed before, but they weren't as prevalent and they didn't need as much processing power as AI really needs. But AI data centers need so much power to process decisions, especially the big ones like ChatGPT, and any data center that would do the processing for an AI actress like Tilly Norwood. So these data centers are built and they need a lot of power from the grid. The grid, for anyone who doesn't know, is kind of like a network that expands across the whole country and can distribute electricity to anywhere. But there's a limit to how much power a place can get because the grid is split up into regions across the country. Like, I'm pretty sure Texas has its own personal power grid. Nonetheless, every location can only be distributed so much power. So these data centers are being built, taking away the available capacity for any places in the future that needed electricity, that literally did anything more productive for society. That's a nitpick and more speculation than anything. The big problem for me is how much fresh water that these data centers use. These data centers use a ton of processing power, and as such, they generate a lot of heat. You know how your PlayStation 3 starts sounding like a jet engine as soon as you turn it on? That's because the components are so old that they start to generate heat almost immediately as electricity flows through them. This is just a normal part of electrical components. But data centers are dealing with way more electricity and thus generating way more heat. So they need a way to cool down the equipment before the damage occurs. So their coolers use fresh water, a ton of it. Just to give you context, fresh water is only about 2.5% of all natural water in the world. Just thinking about how much processing power would have to go into something like Tilly Norwood is just insane. I actually think that it would have to have one of the highest processing power capacities out of any AI out there, which would require so much more fresh water. And I'm just not sure that we have enough to sustain that. So yeah, I appreciate anyone who decided to listen to my full rant today. I'm not anti-AI. Like I said, I took a bunch of classes in college and I did a capstone on it. It's really fascinating to me. It's just a bunch of people are continuing to improve AI to do a lot more cool and awesome things. But at the same time, we ignore the ethical implications of it all. And I think it's going to hurt us in the end if regulations aren't put in place to control it, at least a little bit. So yeah, sub to the channel if you're new. I mainly talk about nerd shit, but if something like this comes up, I would want to talk about it as well. Like this video if you found it helpful or enlightening. And as always, thanks for watching.